Imagine the silence. The grid has failed, the noise of civilization has stopped, and for the first time in your life, you are truly alone in the dark. In this moment, the 70-pound bag sitting in your closet, the one you spent $3,000 curating based on Instagram lists and tactical forums, isn't your salvation, it is your coffin. You have been sold a lethal illusion, a fantasy that owning the gear is the same as owning the skill. But when the world actually burns, that heavy, bloated pack makes you slow, it makes you loud, and worst of all, it makes you a target. You are not a survivor in that scenario. You are a loot drop for someone who knows what actually matters. I am not here to sell you another gadget or a camping trip disguised as preparedness. I am here to dismantle the lies that the survival industry has fed you for decades. They want you to believe that survival is about comfort and redundancy, about having a specific tool for every specific problem. That mindset works when you have a car and a credit card. When the supply chains snap and calories become the only currency that matters, redundancy is just dead weight dragging you toward exhaustion. If you try to carry 50 items to solve 50 problems, you won't make it past the third mile. Your knees will buckle, your energy will crash, and you will be forced to dump that expensive gear by the side of the road just to keep moving. But there is a different way, a harder, smarter way. There are exactly 7 items that stand between you and the void. Just 7. But here is the secret that the tactical influencers won't tell you. Because it doesn't sell affiliate products. These tools are useless if you don't understand the philosophy behind them. We call it the Multiplier Rule. In a collapse, you cannot afford a single ounce of gear that only performs one function. If a tool only does one job, it is a liability. It is a parasite eating your energy. In the old world, you had a kitchen full of unitaskers because you had the luxury of space and stability. In the new world, every single item in your kit must be a capability generator. It must solve at least 3 critical, life-threatening problems, and ideally, it should solve problems you haven't even encountered yet. We are going to rebuild your entire survival strategy from the ground up, focusing on versatility, durability, and raw capability. We are cutting the fat until only the muscle remains. But I have to warn you, the last 2 items on this list are going to make you uncomfortable. They are ugly, they are cheap, and the tactical bros ignore them completely because they don't look cool on social media. Yet, those 2 items have saved more lives in real disaster zones than every $1,000 survival knife combined. This isn't about what looks good. It is about what works when you are wet, freezing, and terrified. Let's start with the threat that kills you first. It isn't starvation. You can go 3 weeks without food. It isn't dehydration. You have 3 days to find water. And honestly, it probably isn't even the raiders or the zombies you are fantasizing about. The thing that kills you first is the environment itself. It is the cold. It is the wind. It is the rain stripping the heat from your body faster than you can generate it. You have maybe 90 minutes in cold, wet conditions before hypothermia sets in. Once your core temperature drops, your fine motor skills vanish. You can't zip your jacket, you can't tie your shoes, and you certainly cannot operate a complex fire-starting mechanism. Your brain fogs over, you make bad decisions, and you just lay down and go to sleep. The survival industry tells you to pack a BC lighter, waterproof matches, maybe a magnesium block. They are setting you up to fail. Lighters are mechanical devices. They break, they run out of fuel, and they are useless when your hands are frozen claws. Matches? Waterproof is a marketing term, not a guarantee. Even if they work, you have a finite number of attempts. 50 matches mean 50 chances, and when you are shaking uncontrollably, you will burn through them in minutes. And magnesium blocks? Try shaving a pile of magnesium dust in a gale force wind with numb fingers. It is a party trick, not a survival strategy. You need a fire source that is infinite. You need the Ferro Rod, but not the little keychain toy you see at the checkout counter. You need a massive, military-grade, half-inch thick Ferro Rod. This is your first multiplier. A quality Ferro Rod gives you 15,000 strikes. That is 15,000 chances to save your life. It doesn't care if it's wet. It doesn't care if it's been submerged in a river for a week. It doesn't care if it's 30 degrees below zero. When you scrape that spine, it throws molten metal at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot enough to ignite damp tinder, hot enough to force a fire into existence when nature is screaming no. But remember the multiplier rule. If it just starts fires, it's not enough. This rod is also your primary signaling device. At night, that shower of sparks is visible for hundreds of yards. It's a distress beacon that never runs out of batteries. It is also a psychological anchor. There is something primal about creating fire from cold metal. In a survival situation, panic is the mind killer. The rhythmic act of processing tinder and striking sparks forces you to focus, to slow down, to regain control of your spiraling thoughts. And in the absolute worst-case scenario, you can scrape the rod slowly to produce a pile of Ferro dust. Mix that with rust or certain other scavenged chemicals, and you have the ingredients for a primitive high-heat reaction, capable of melting through ice or fusing metal. One rod. Heat, light, signal, psychology, and chemistry. That is a capability. Now let's assume you have conquered the cold. You have fire. You have survived the first night. The sun comes up, and your body starts screaming for the next necessity. Water. But here's where the second lie comes in. The rule of threes says you can live 3 days without water. That is a dangerous half-truth. Sure, you might not die for 3 days, but after 24 hours of dehydration, you are functionally useless. Your blood thickens, your heart works overtime, your judgment collapses. You will make a mistake, you will slip, you will cut yourself, and that will be the end. You probably bought a fancy water filter. Maybe a straw that lets you drink from a puddle or a pump system with ceramic pores. Those are great for a weekend hike. In a long-term collapse, they are a liability. Filters clog with silt. Ceramic elements shatter if you drop them or if the water inside freezes and expands. And once that filter is blocked, it is just a piece of plastic trash. You can't field repair a microfilter. You can't unclog it without clean water, which is exactly what you don't have. Chemical tablets? They run out, they taste like bleach, and they take 30 minutes to work. You don't have 30 minutes when you are dehydrated and moving fast. The only answer, the only method that has worked for 10,000 years and will never fail you is boiling. And to do that, you need the second item in our kit, a 32-ounce single-wall stainless steel water bottle. Not insulated, not double wall, not aluminum or plastic, single wall, stainless steel. This distinction is critical. You cannot put an insulated bottle in a fire. It will explode or melt. You need a vessel that you can throw directly into the heart of the flames. Boiling is the ultimate purification. It kills everything. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, nothing survives a rolling boil. There is no guessing, no checking flow rates, no backflushing. If it bubbles, it is safe. But under the multiplier rule, this isn't just a water bottle. It is the heart of your mobile life support system. First, it is a water carrier, obviously. Second, it is your cooking pot. You can boil scavenged roots, rice, or unknown meat to make it safe and digestible. Digestion takes energy. Cooking pre-digests the food for you, saving your body precious calories. Third, and this is a trick the tactical brothers miss, it is a heater. On a freezing night, you boil water, wrap the bottle in a spare sock or shirt, and hug it against your chest or put it between your legs near the femoral artery. That heat transfer can keep you warm for hours, saving your body from burning its own fat reserves just to stay alive. Fourth, it's a tool for charring material. You can put cloth inside, seal it loosely, and put it in the fire to make char cloth, the ultimate fire starter for your next spark. Fifth, in a desperate close-quarters situation, a steel bottle filled with water creates a 2-pound impact weapon that is completely innocent-looking until you swing it. 5 distinct survival functions in one indestructible steel cylinder. That is how you win. You have conquered the cold with fire and the dehydration with boiling water, but you are not safe yet. In fact, you remain critically vulnerable because the environment is relentless. It never sleeps. The wind will strip your body heat, the rain will soak your insulation, and the sun will bake the energy right out of your muscles. You need a barrier. You need a home that you can carry on your back without breaking your spine. And this is where the survival industry sells you the biggest lie of all. The tent. They show you lightweight, high-tech backpacking tents that cost $400. They look comfortable. They look safe. But in a survival scenario, a tent is a 4-pound coffin. It is a unitasker. It does exactly one thing. It sits there. You cannot wear it. You cannot easily camouflage it. And when the zippers fail, and they will fail when they get packed with mud and grit, you are left with a useless pile of nylon. Worse, a tent cuts you off from your environment. You can't see threats approaching. You are blind, deaf, and zipped inside a brightly colored bag that screams to everyone within a mile, I have valuable resources. The professional solution, the multiplier solution, is the tarp, but not the crinkly blue plastic garbage you buy at the hardware store that shreds in the wind. You need a 10 by 10 foot, heavy-duty, silicone-impregnated nylon or canvas tarp in an earth tone olive drab, coyote brown, or deep green. A tarp is not just a roof. It is infinite architecture. It is the raw material of shelter. With a tarp, you aren't stuck with one shape. If the wind is howling, you pitch it low and tight in a plow point configuration to deflect the gale. If it is hot, you pitch it high as a sunshade to allow airflow. If you need to move fast in a downpour, you wrap it around yourself like a cloak. A tent traps moisture from your breath, creating condensation that freezes you at night. A tarp allows for airflow and, crucially, allows you to build a fire right in front of your shelter. A tent separates you from the fire's heat. A properly pitched tarp catches that heat and reflects it back onto your body, creating a microclimate that can be 20 degrees warmer than the outside air. That is the difference between shivering all night and actually sleeping. But a tarp is just fabric. To transform it into a fortress, to process fuel for your fire, to carve stakes for your shelter, you need the most fundamental tool in human history, the knife. And this is where the tactical bros get it wrong again. They want you to carry a hatchet, a saw, a machete, and a combat dagger. That is 10 pounds of steel you do not need. You need one blade that can do it all. You need a 4 to 5 inch, fixed blade knife made of high carbon steel with a full tang. Let me explain why those specifics are non-negotiable. Full tang means the metal of the blade runs all the way through the handle. It is one solid bar of steel. You can hammer on it, pry with it, and abuse it, and it will not snap at the handle like a cheap hollow-handled survival knife. Carbon steel is softer than stainless, which sounds bad, but in the field, it is a lifesaver. It is easier to sharpen on a river rock. It holds a terrifyingly sharp edge, and unlike stainless steel, you can strike the spine of a carbon blade with a rock to generate sparks if you lose your Ferro Rod. This knife is your hatchet. Through a technique called batoning, where you place the blade on a log and strike the spine with a heavy branch, you can split firewood with surgical precision. You can process an entire tree into fuel without ever swinging an axe. It is your draw knife for making tools. It is your precise carver for making trap triggers. It is your food processor. And yes, in the absolute worst-case scenario, it is a formidable defensive weapon that never runs out of ammo. One blade, 5 pounds of other tools eliminated. Now, you have the shelter material and the tool to shape the environment, but you need something to hold it all together. You need cordage. The standard answer is 550 paracord. And the standard answer is wrong. Paracord is a nylon rope designed for parachutes, not for building shelters in the mud. It stretches when it gets wet. You pitch your tarp tight, it rains, the cord stretches, your shelter sags, and you wake up soaking wet. It absorbs water like a sponge, becoming heavy and freezing into a solid wire in winter. The superior alternative, the choice of commercial fishermen and serious woodsmen, is number 36 tarred bankline. This stuff is a revelation. It is twisted nylon twine impregnated with tar. It is waterproof, rot-proof, and UV resistant. It does not stretch. It bites into itself when you tie knots, holding securely where paracord would slip, yet it unties easily when you need to break camp. It is thinner and lighter than paracord, meaning you can carry 300 feet of it in the same space as 50 feet of paracord. With bankline, you have a multiplier that puts paracord to shame. It is strong enough to hold your body weight in a hammock setup. It is thin enough to be used as heavy-duty fishing line to catch actual food. You can unravel it to make snares for small game. You can use it to sew up a torn pack or even stitch a wound in a dire emergency. It is the duct tape of the cordage world, except we have actual duct tape coming up later. Let's talk about the item that separates the fantasists from the realists. The item that isn't sexy, that no influencer puts in their thumbnail, but is perhaps the most critical multiplier of all. Contractor bags, not kitchen trash bags. I am talking about the massive 3 mil thick 55-gallon heavy-duty bags used to haul construction debris. You need to pack at least 3 of these. Why? Because moisture is the silent killer. You can survive the cold if you are dry. You cannot survive the cold if you are wet. A contractor bag is an instant, impenetrable waterproof shield. Cut a hole for your face, and you have a poncho that covers you and your backpack, keeping you bone dry in a monsoon. Stuff it full of dry leaves, grass, or pine needles, and you have an insulated mattress that keeps your body off the freezing. Ground conduction heat loss is the thief that steals your warmth while you sleep, but the multiplier rule goes further. Use it as a pack liner to ensure your spare clothes never get wet, no matter if you fall into a river. Use it to collect rainwater. Use it as a solar still by placing it over a hole in the ground to evaporate moisture from the soil. In a pinch, it is a flotation device to help you cross deep water. It weighs ounces, costs pennies, and saves your life in half a dozen ways. Finally, we have to address the reality of entropy. In the real world, things break. Your gear will fail. Your boots will split. Your jacket will tear. Your tarp will get a puncture. When the supply chain is gone, you cannot order a replacement. You have to fix it, or you lose that capability forever. You need a repair kit that can fix anything, anywhere. You need Gorilla Tape, not generic duct tape. Gorilla Tape. It has a double-thick adhesive layer that sticks to rough, dirty, wet surfaces that would laugh at standard tape. But do not carry the round roll, it's bulky. Rewrap 30 feet of it around an old credit card or a flat piece of plastic. It disappears into your pocket. This is your universal repair system. Tarp ripped? Tape it. Boot sole flapping? Tape it. Cracked water bottle? Tape it. But under the multiplier rule, it is also a medical kit. It makes the best butterfly closures for deep cuts. It creates splints for broken fingers or sprained ankles. It covers blisters so you can keep marching. And here is a secret. The adhesive and fabric mesh are highly flammable. Roll a ball of tape inside out and strike it with your Ferro Rod. It burns like a candle for minutes, giving you a sustained flame to start a fire in damp conditions. There you have it. Ferro Rod, water bottle, tarp, knife, bank line, contractor bags, duct tape, 7 items. But the most important tool isn't on this list. It is the gray matter between your ears. These 7 tools are just force multipliers for your knowledge. A Ferro Rod is useless if you do not know how to prepare a bird's nest tinder bundle. A knife is dangerous if you don't know the mechanics of safe cutting. A tarp is just a blanket if you don't know your knots. Don't just buy this list and put it in a closet. That is a false sense of security. Buy these items, go out into the woods and fail with them. Struggle to light that fire. Struggle to pitch that tarp in the wind. Learn the limits of your gear and the limits of your body now, while the lights are still on, while the stakes are low. Because when the day comes that you actually need this gear, you won't rise to the occasion. You will sink to the level of your training. Stop buying fantasies. Start building capabilities. The world doesn't care about your expensive gear. It respects only your ability to survive it.